Today we're going to be looking at the last day of Yeshua, part 2. Part 2. John chapter 13, verse 1 through 20. John chapter 13, verse 1 through 20. Let's go ahead and just read down through this portion of the chapter and talk a little bit about this part of what happens on Yeshua's last day.
All right, John chapter 13, verse 1. And before the festival of Pesach, Yeshua, knowing that his hour had come, that he should move out of this world unto the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. And the supper taking place, the devil having already put into the heart of the Yehuda Kariot, son of Shimeon, to deliver him, Yeshua, knowing that the Father had given all into his hands, and that he had come from Elohim and was going to Elohim, rose from supper and laid aside his garments, and having taken a towel, he girded himself. After that, he put water into a basin and began to wash his feet, the feet of his taught ones, and to wipe them with the towel with which he was girded. And so he came to Shimon Kepha, and he said to him, Master, do you wash my feet? Yeshua answered and said to him, you do not know what I am doing now, but you shall know after this. Kepha said to him, by no means shall you wash my feet ever. Yeshua said to him, I do not wash you. You have no part with me. Or if I do not wash you, you have no part with me. Shimon Kepha said to him, Master, do not my feet only, but also my hands and my head. Yeshua said to him, he who is had a bath does not need to wash except his feet, but is clean altogether. And you are clean, but not all of you. For he knew who would deliver him up, and so he said, you are not all clean. So when he had washed their feet and had taken his garments, he sat down again. He said to them, do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and master, and you say, well, for I am. Then if I, master and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I gave you an example that you should do as I do to you, as I have done to you. Truly, truly, I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is an emissary greater than he who sent him. If you know these teachings, blessed are you if you do them. I do not speak concerning all of you. I know whom I have chosen, that the scripture might be fulfilled. He who eats bread with me has lifted up his heel against me. Now I say to you, before it takes place, that when it does take place, you shall believe that I am. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who receives whoever I send receives me, and he who receives me receives him who sent me.
All right. Very good. A few things we want to take note of here when we look at this portion of Yeshua's last day. We see, when we think back at the other accounts, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, of the same exact situation where, most of those, Matthew, Mark, John, they talk about the first of the festival of Pesach. Basically, they all say that. We looked at that and we talked about the fact that when we go back to the Torah, understanding that the Pesach, Feast of Unleavened Bread, is from the 14th at even to the 21st at even. It's a specific given time, and determining the customs of the time, we're able to see that the time when Yeshua went to his disciples, told them to go get ready for the Passover, he was telling them to go and to prepare a place where the Passover would be kept at the time that they did that, because they would get the leaven out of the house early, a day ahead of time, so that next day when they went and got the lamb for Passover, you was dealing with a clean, cleared out place. And so they made sure that everything was clean in a place where they were, whether it be a house or some temporary place that they were at, that they were going to be there for the feast, so that you could have those 7 full days of unleavened dwelling. And so when we look at John, he literally says here, before the festival of Pesach, which helps us to understand kind of the traditional cultural understanding to the timing that it was, where it literally had to be early. And so when we look at John's account, it's not specific, at least not here. The idea is that we have this indicator, which is Pesach, and that this time, this season that they were in, it was the season of Pesach, but before the actual time.
You just go with Passover lamb.
Well, exactly. And so it's important for, I think, understanding that the timing of Yeshua, when he gets together with his disciples at the quote-unquote Last Supper, is the 13th of Abib going into the 14th of Abib. And then so they have the thing that they're having, they're there at night, it's evening time, it begins to be the 14th because the day switches at nighttime. They go through all that they go through, and tomorrow, to them at that time, tomorrow was the time that they would have got their lamb to eat the Passover with everyone else and kill the lamb tomorrow. But when we look at Yeshua, he's saying, let's prepare the Passover. He keeps on saying it. Let's eat the Passover. Let's prepare the Passover. Let's have the Passover. Probably I want to say probably, I don't know how they would have lamb there. Because they would had to have,
Had the lamb slaughtered.
yeah, they probably didn't have lamb there. They probably just didn't. But the thing that they were doing, according to the way that Yeshua describes it, had to be Passover, because he's calling it Passover. So they had all of the things there, probably not lamb.
They have the living lamb from
They,
heaven.
yes. And so I think the thing that is important for us to understand, something that's not talked about by anyone in the Bible, except for John the Baptist, about the idea of Yeshua being the Lamb of Elohim, which is such an important principle that's only even spoken 2 times in the Bible, in the Gospels at least. The Lamb of Elohim. He's first called the Lamb of Elohim by John the Baptist, by the one who is the forerunner, the most important guy who says that this is the Messiah, the one that we've been looking for. John the Baptist calls him the Lamb of Elohim. So important. It's so important in understanding who Yeshua is and his purpose, what he even came to do. And so when we get to the place where he's saying, well, my time is about up, I'm not going to be in this world anymore, understanding what that means and its connection to the time that it actually is Passover is so important. Let's go over to John chapter 1. And let's look at 29 and 30. Because John the Baptist says this thing over here, and it's so important to understand, especially in connection with the timing of Yeshua's actual death and the significance of it. But we don't even think about anything that makes these connections that are given to us in the scriptures, because they're not given to us anywhere but by John the Baptist in terms of the Lamb of Elohim. Let's look at John 1:29 and 30. What's this?
John 129. On the next day, Yohanan, John, saw Yeshua coming toward him and said, "See the Lamb of Elohim who takes away the sin of the world. This is he whom I said, after me comes a man who has become before me, for he was before me."
Okay, very good. So John the Baptist, John the immerser, sees Yeshua coming, and he makes this prophetic utterance, and he calls out and says, "See, behold, lo, this right here, this guy that you see is the Lamb of Elohim." Nobody's even been called that before. And so I'm not sure if the people actually even understand what that even means. Because they wasn't necessarily looking for someone who was literally called the Lamb of Elohim. It's a title that doesn't exist. But when we think about the significance of it and what it represents, it's the most important title that could exist, especially from this messianic standpoint. John got so much revelation in these 2 sentences over here. First of all, saying that that Yeshua, this one that he sees, that he's proclaiming to the people, this is the Lamb of Elohim. But when we think about it in its fullness, and its connection to Pesach, the lamb. Without the lamb, there's no protection for the people. Not just the lamb, but the slaying of the lamb and the application of the blood. You got to have the lamb, you got to slay the lamb, and you have to apply the blood of the lamb to the lintels and the doorposts. And so when John talks about Yeshua as being the Lamb of Elohim, you know, he's not mentioning this thing here, this connection with the Passover lamb, but we have to look and see the connection that is there, because when you think about the original Passover, when you think about the significance of the original Passover, it's literally the birth of Israel. It's literally the most important situation that occurs in relation to the people. But as we just got finished looking at, when we see what happens, we see that one lacks something. Because the people, even though they was taken out, even though they was given this divine purpose and this divine plan, they wasn't able to carry it out properly because there was something that was missing. And so you got to have all of that happen, the 40 years getting into going into the wilderness, getting into the land, becoming an actual nation, having a series of kings, a splitting of the nation, various captivities that happen, and dispersions of people, and all of these things that happen, to finally, when the Most High begins to speak to these different prophets and talk about this Messiah that's going to come and heal the people, of which John, you know, is one of those ones. And so by the time it gets to John, in the scope of things, we're always looking for this fulfillment of what was. And so now when we see Yeshua at this time, before the festival of Pesach, knowing that his hour had come, and it's inside of the context of Pesach, him being the Lamb of Elohim, and John bringing forth this revelation, and not only the revelation, but saying this other thing that he says over there in verse 30. After me comes a man who has become before me. What does that even mean? What do we learn about Yeshua by his big cousin saying, after me comes a man who became before me? But in the flesh and carnality, Yeshua's earthly mother talks to John the Baptist's mother whenever John the Baptist is in her belly. And so we find out, because of the meeting of the two, that Yeshua's younger than John the Baptist. But John is talking about him coming before him. But how could he when he wasn't even ready, conceived yet in the flesh. John has this revelation about the essence and nature of who Yeshua really is. And he speaks it again in the context of the Lamb of Elohim. And when he says over there, we're still looking over here. Let's look at John 1:29, where he says the Lamb of Elohim who takes away sin of the world. Look at that word there, who takes away. Taketh away. To lift, to take away, to raise. Go down some more. Hebraism, to expiate sin. What's that word there? Nasa, to lift. Right? Where it talks about the idea of expiation. Expiation is this idea of atonement. To make satisfaction. Here, go to Webster's dictionary and put in expiates. Webster's dictionary and put in expiates. Because when Yeshua lifts up the sins of the world, the word, the Hebraism that goes with this idea of lifting up the sins of the world is euphemistic for atonement. Okay, go down to where it says number 1 on expiate. Right there, to atone for, to make satisfaction for, to extinguish the guilt of a crime by subsequent acts of piety or worship, by which the obligation to punish the crime is canceled. There was an obligation for there to be a recompense for a thing that was done. You've wronged me and justice is necessary, whether it be a slap or 20%. There is a thing that is necessary to appease my wrath. I have a taste of wrath in my mouth, and it needs to be quenched by something. That something is this process of atonement, expiation, the appeasement of wrath. Okay, just like when you think about the fact that you're so hungry, you have a headache, you've got to eat something so that your body can feel okay. And then once you've eaten, that appetite is quenched and it has been appeased. But this is the same thing when we talk about the idea of justice and someone being wronged. When justice, it seeks to be quenched. It needs to be taken care of. Something has got to happen. I see you over there. I know what you did. Something got to happen. We can't just let it go. And so when we think about what John says in terms of the Lamb of Elohim, who takes away the sin of the world, the Most High has got judgment waiting for those that are in sin. There's judgment waiting for the sinner. If you fit in that category, There's wrath waiting for you. And it's necessary for that wrath, for that need of justice to be done, to be taken away. There's a penalty against you, and it needs to be paid. And so the Lamb of Elohim is the one who does that. The Lamb of Elohim is the one who takes away the penalty of sin and sin. He takes away the sin and the penalty. He lifts it up and he takes it away somewhere. Just like we see with the Day of Atonement, where we have the scapegoat, where we have the goat that dies and the goat that remains alive, where we have all sin and transgression and iniquity taken away. This is the Lamb of Elohim. And this thing goes all the way back to the garden. It goes all the way back to the garden. When we talk about the idea of sin and this thing being natural, because of your separation from the Most High, there is always a necessity for you to have been reconnected back to the Father. And the only way that you're able to be reconnected is if his wrath is satisfied that's against you. Because when you was born, you started sinning. And it put you in a bad place. Because you followed after the desires of your wicked heart that the Most High wasn't dwelling in. You grew up and you got to be 2 or 3, and you started wanting to do things that made you feel good. And you didn't care about anyone else but yourself. And you began your life of sin and iniquity.
And career.
Yes.
Career.
Yes. And then by the time you became an adult, you were proficient at sin. But the thing that the Lamb of Elohim came to do was to rescue you from this thing that dwells in your members. And so again, if we go back to John 13, where Yeshua at Passover, he says to the people that he says that he should move out of this world unto the Father. What in the world is he talking about?
Is that what it's saying, KJV?
No?
What does it say?
What, the King James? What do the King James say? I don't know. Scroll down there and see what it says. He knew that his time was come when he should depart out of this world.
Same thing.
Why didn't he just say die? Why didn't he say come? It came. Its time has come for me to die. Why is he talking about it like this? Why is he saying that it's the time has come for him to move out of this world? Because we know there's only one way that you move out of this world, and that's by you going to sleep and not waking up. That's by you dying. I said go to sleep, but that's the same concept there of this idea of this life being really kind of continuous. and not really ending but changing. Because you see the language that's used by the ancients, they talk like that. You know, they talk about going and being with the fathers, with the forefathers. You know, sometimes we think about death. I almost feel like this idea of death being nothingness as it's a foreign concept. Because the ancients didn't speak of it in that way. Yeshua here speaking about it. That's more of like a transition. He's moving out of this world. He's talking about him dying and going to this other place where the Father is. When we look back at the way that the ancients talked about this world to come, the Olam Haba, the world to come, that too is not necessarily what Yeshua is talking about, because he's talking about he himself going somewhere. He himself's going somewhere. His disciples are still left behind. And so there's a mission that needs to continue for them that he seemingly isn't going to be a part of. He's leaving the world. You guys, you'll be left here in this world. I'm going away back to the Father. But this whole time, he's speaking to them about the kingdom. He talks to them about thy kingdom come, thy will be done. And so it becomes necessary for, what he begins to focus on and talk to his disciples about here is about understanding, continuing this understanding of the idea of this transition of the physical end to your physical life. And this other thing that happens after that. What that is. And if we also think about the idea of this being in the context of Pesach and him being the Lamb of Elohim, think about what the blood of the Lamb did for you. It caused that death angel to pass over you. Over your house. Right? And so when death came, it skipped over you, your house. And so Yeshua, what is it that the Lamb of Elohim does for us when we are able to apply his sacrifice to our lives?
See, I'm curious. So, he knew he had to get up out of here. He's saying he's going back to the Father. They killed him. He got up. Then he went to the Father. Well, he went to the Father and came back to show him that he was basically still alive. But why? I'm trying to get the concept of him not staying.
Oh, you talking about after he came back? You mean shut us up?
Yeah, it's on one hand, it's death is better because you go with the Father.
But we have to think about the functionality of what it was that Yeshua was doing. Because when we think about, again, this Passover, this Lamb of Elohim, and the fact that he actually was coming to perform a portion, I'm saying a portion of his purpose, which was to be that deliverer of the people. But the way that he was deliverer in his death and his shedding of blood and his making redemption, deliverance for his people, he talks to his disciples. Oh, we didn't get there yet. We talks to his disciples about the fact that he has to go away so that the Spirit can come. And so Yeshua being the first fruits of those that rise from the dead, he goes through this process to show what our process will be. And so he comes and dies and lives and goes back to the Father so that he can send back the Ruach HaKodesh. But when we think about the feast days, and we're given these feast days so that we're able to see what it is that Yeshua does in his totality for us. So it's interesting that Passover, the thing that he did at Passover, it was also atonement at the same time for us. And so when we think about atonement and what it represents, the priest, who Yeshua is a high priest, the high priest has to go out of our sight and out of our vision to deal with sin. And there's that time for them. It wasn't like it was probably a matter of moments for him to go away and splash the blood in the thing. But you still have that period of time where he goes away, and is he gonna come back? Like, is he gonna come out of there? And the joy, first of all, the expectation of him coming back, kind of the building up inside, and the finality of this task that he's performing. But when he returns, the jubilation that they must have felt when he came back, because they know when he came back, all of the things that he went to do was done. And so when we think about Yeshua, he has to go away. He has to go away, and the time is elongated, obviously, because he's been away for a long time. But when we look at the things that he says, he has to go away to prepare a place for us. And so, people talk about the idea of the new covenant not being in existence. But I think those people don't understand what a marriage is from an ancient perspective in regards to the betrothal. Because when there's a betrothal, there's a period of time when the husband isn't there dwelling with his bride to be. They're betrothed to one another, but he has to go and set everything in order. And then she waits in anticipation for him to return. But they're married already. The covenant has begun. If somebody comes and takes what is someone else's, that person dies if she's in on it. And she dies too if she's in on it. But if she's not in on it, she don't die. But he dies though, because she belongs to someone else. And so when we think about our situation with the Master Yeshua in the context of these pictures that he's given for us, we are that betrothed bride, connected to the bridegroom, already in anticipation of his return. But we're bound to him through the covenant. And so when we think about what it is the Spirit does inside of us, it binds us to the Father. We're bound to him. And the strength of that paperwork is unbreakable. Because that covenant has been made, it wasn't just like, okay, yeah, we're going to do this thing. No, you did the thing, and it's been sealed. And you're connected forever. And so when we think about the way that the Spirit is spoken of, especially Paul talks about it as being the earnest of the Spirit, it's the down payment of the covenant. The covenant is in place and is in stone, written in blood, engraved in your heart, and is sealed, signed, delivered on you. But Yeshua, he's making this thing be. He's taking it to the spiritual realm. The way he's talking about it when he says that he's moving out of this world. He's moving out of this world and he's going to this other world where the Father is. And then he goes into this thing with his disciples about this thing about washing the feet of his disciples. You know, as this supper takes place, if we go back over to verse 2. As this supper takes place, they begin to eat this meal that in all of the accounts they call the Passover. So they're doing this thing and they're treating it just like Passover, probably not with any lamb, but doing all of the other things. And he says in verse 3, knowing that the Father has given all into his hands, that he had come from Elohim, he came from Elohim and was going to Elohim. And then you have all of these things that's going on, and in the midst of all of this, he says, I think I'm going to wash y'all feet to teach y'all a lesson. Yeshua always giving lessons to his disciples. He never stops. And so over here, he decides to do it. I'm going to teach y'all a lesson right now. He just starts doing it. Gets take off his garment. I don't know how far he went off his. He'd say take off his garments. Probably his outer garment.
Nice outfit he had on.
Yeah, the outer over his over garments. And began to wash their feet and wipe them off with a towel. And Simon Peter, you know, I feel like he was the OG of the group. And he was always speaking up about stuff, right? He's like, man, you ain't washing my feet. Get out of here. I'm not worthy for you to do it. See, it's interesting. He understands that much to know the level that Yeshua was on, and understanding that I should be washing your feet. You can't wash my feet. But Yeshua is like, if I don't wash your feet, you have no part with me. Yeshua, can you read 9 and 10 again?
Yeah, John 13.
Yeah.
It says, and Simeon Kepha said to him, Master, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head. Yeshua said to him, he who has had a bath does not need to wash except his feet, but is clean altogether.
That cracks me up.
And you are clean, but not all of you.
He who has had a bath does not need to wash. He not. I ain't trying to get you no bath up in here. I'm trying to wash your feet. Yeshua cracks me up sometimes. I ain't trying to wash your whole body now. I'm washing your feet. But I think that it's necessary for us to understand what the significance. Like this got to have significance, but it ain't just about cleaning somebody. Because he's saying you could go clean you could go wash yourself when you take a bath. I'm doing this thing here, washing your feet. I'm showing you how I serve you. I'm showing you how I serve you. And if you don't let me serve you, I can't even be connected with you. You're none of me if I can't serve you. But the way that I serve you is in the washing of your feet, which is kind of like the guiding of your steps. It's the guiding of your steps. These things are euphemistic meanings of the thing that he's doing. It's not simply about the fact that they walked around in sandals all day and their feet probably had dirt between their toes. It don't got nothing to do with that. There might not have been any soap in the water. But it's talking about this idea. You washed when you was getting washed, you did that already. But what about this thing that he's doing when if I can wash your feet, you'll be clean. If I can guide your steps, then you can be clean. But how is it that he's able to guide their steps? He's in there talking about the fact that he's about to leave out of this world. Well, he don't talk about it yet, but he's getting ready to talk about the fact that he's going to send back a comforter to live and dwell on the inside of each one of them. Which is going to be the fulfillment of the covenant, which is the idea of the law being written on your hearts. And so when we think about this idea of Yeshua, the master, serving his disciples and saying to them, if you don't let me serve you, I can't, you're not part of me. But not only that, you need to serve one another. And so the things that Yeshua imparts to his disciples, he expects for them to impart that to one another and to the world. The way that the disciples were served, he says, I expect for you to serve in that way. Except not all of you. One of you is excluded from all this, which of course was Judas. And so again, when we look down where it says here, read again for us 16 and 17.
Truly, truly, I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is an emissary greater than he who sent him. If you know these teachings, blessed are you if you do them.
Okay, so the thing that he's doing, like this, these words that he's speaking encapsulate the actions that he just performed. And he's essentially helping these disciples to understand that, first of all, it's necessary for them to be served by Yeshua. But understanding that him serving them is actually cleansing them. And if they was to seek to forbid the cleansing that Yeshua had to offer, they can't be part of them then.
Right. They'll stay dirty.
Yeah. You're going to be dirty, then you can't be part of me. And so, let me cleanse you. Let me cleanse your feet. Let me guide your steps. If you don't let me guide your steps, you can't be part of me. And so after I've cleansed you and am showing you the way to allow yourself to be guided by me, you perpetuate that, continue that with one another and the world. This is his whole thing that he started from the day one, from the beginning. Teaching people to turn from sin and prepare for the kingdom that is coming. It's just a little bit closer now. He's saying, the kingdom is still coming. But this thing has to happen in order for you to be able to be prepared fully for his coming. He has to go back to the Father. But this lesson that he's teaching his disciples, this idea of service, it's like unto what they talked about in the other account of basically the same thing, where the disciples are talking about who's the greatest. But they're really still on that same vein with this idea, and no longer talking about who's the greatest, but Yeshua's emphasis on this idea of service. And that the way that you manifest the character of the Most High is through service. Serving one another. Serving the people. And in doing all this, when we look back at just ending up, can you read 19 and 20 again?
It says, now I say to you before it takes place, that when it does take place, you shall believe that I am. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who receives whomever I send receives me, and he who receives me receives him who sent me.
Now, he says this in the context of you all are clean. I've washed your feet. You washed each other's feet. You guys are clean except for one. I'm telling you about this thing that the one who's not really part of you, what he's going to do. And when you see, when you see what he does, you're going to remember what I said and believe in these things that I'm saying. He's talking real cryptic to them. They don't really understand. But it's interesting that when he's talking about he who receives whomever I send receives me. I think this is twofold because he's going to send the Ruach HaKodesh. And if you receive the Ruach HaKodesh, you receive me. You receive him. And he who receives me receives him who sent me. But also, they're going to be sent out as representatives of not only the Spirit, but Yeshua himself. And say those that receive them will receive Yeshua and the one who sent Yeshua. So I think when it talks about this idea of receiving whom I send, is both talking about them and them going out and being sent and people receiving them. But not only that, but them going out and the Spirit going out and people receiving the Spirit too. And then continuing in this cycle of serving and servitude. And when it talks about the Spirit coming, we didn't talk about it yet, but it's getting ready to. The Comforter, even in the idea and name of Comforter is service. And so again, kind of just closing in on this note, thinking about the fact that Yeshua in this process of teaching his disciples about humility and service towards one another and also towards the world, getting them ready for this big change that's about to happen that involves his transition out of this world, but also preparing them for this this greater transition, which is the Spirit of holiness, the Ruach HaKodesh, which empowers us to serve. And so, it's interesting, as we think about, this last day of Yeshua and all of the various, pictures that we see inside of it, helping us to be able to understand not only what it was that he did for these, I'll say 11 people at this time, but what he did for mankind through this action that he is about to perform, where the empowerment that happens as a result of the thing that he does and the great significance that it holds, in the timing, that it is. To know that there's a connection between the original Passover and now this Passover here, to see that connection, to see that where it, I don't want to say lacked, but I don't know what else to say, where it pointed us towards something greater. And this over here actually being that thing that was greater. That we know that when we receive the gifts that are given as a result of us accepting the Lamb of Elohim, it puts us in the greatest of positions, and that's being able to walk out the character of the Most High through the strength that he gives us freely if we accept it by faith. Okay. Does anybody have any thoughts, questions, or comments about any of this?
So he, verse 11, he said, for he knew who would deliver him up, so he said, you are not clean. Oh, you are not all clean. So he really didn't wash that man's feet, that other man's feet. Did he really keep him out of the foot washing?
I think maybe I never thought about the fact that now I'm not washing his Judas's feet,
Oh, you are?
but
Yeah, see.
I feel like I feel like he had to have washed his feet because they didn't know.
That would have known who it was.
They would have known who he was.
Wow.
At that time, because they didn't know until he actually betrays him.
So he probably washed their feet, and then he made that statement. He's like, y'all all ain't clean though.
Even though he
Even
washed
though he
everybody's
washed them,
feet,
yeah,
one of y'all is lacking
he's
still.
gonna dirty his feet again in the wrong
Yeah.
area. Okay,
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. And I like verse 15. Like I always say it, but it's like you read something, but you don't really isolate it to have it there. Or I gave you an example that you should do as I've done to you. You can use that for it. Like his whole life
Yeah.
was an example, and I just like that to isolate that verse.
Yeah. Yeah, and his life really is an example. I think that he's encapsulated it all in this act here, showing that he, as great as he is, came and he served these men, teaching them these ways so that they could go out and serve the world.
Right.
And that's what they did. And so if we can just get that message to know that, if we want to know what it is that we're supposed to be doing, we can look at Yeshua and his life and figure it out.
Yeah.
He makes it plain for us. He showed us what to do. But not only did he show us what to do, he empowers us to do it through the Spirit of holiness.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that being said, I guess that's all for now. Y'all willing, we'll be back on next Shabbat to talk more about the last day of Yeshua. There's many parts. There's a lot of things that go on in his last day. Also, the weekly Torah portion. But for now, we'll say Shabbat Shalom.